As the resident white hair wifey enjoyer, I thought I wanted to do a little bit of a video talking about this because I couldn't be more excited for the potential summon of this servant more than anybody else. Because again, white hair wifey enjoyer over here, I would love to see Omi-san actually come into the game, but I also wanted to start a little bit of discussion talking about the history of NPC characters becoming servants in FGO, and just don't want to be a Debbie Downer about things, but just want to remind people that sometimes we do get NPC servants, and other times we have Kamatsa's where we have no idea where that guy's at. Now, there might be light spoilers for the current event that's going on the JP side of things, and there might be light story spoilers. I'm going to kind of talk about some of like the developer things every now and then, because I do pay attention to the interviews that they do, and especially ones where like, say, like Nasu or the other writers get involved. If you've seen any of my like story or lore discussions, you know that I do pay attention to those things, especially if you have seen the Patreon where we did like the story rankings and stuff. We kind of went into who writes what and other works they've done. Shameless shill for the Patreon down in the description down below, but let's just kind of dive into the kind of a more relaxed, laid back video that I wanted to do. But first and foremost, they are kind of leaving the door open in the current event, because they did have her say that she doesn't know if she's a heroic spirit or not. So I guess that's them saying, well, maybe she'll be summonable in the future, maybe she won't, maybe there'll be a second banner that drops in a couple of days, maybe there won't be a secondary banner, which, I mean, could go one of two ways, because I don't really have anything against Bisquion and Kurohime, but it's not exactly the most hype banner I think a lot of people could say, because both of the servants are good. Bisquion is definitely a really strong single target quick servant, but I'm still of the opinion that while someone like Kama is on raid up at the same time and just received a very powerful buff, you're probably just going to go summon for Kama, and I'd have to imagine, even if you do think that Bisquion is a little bit better than Kama, you can't argue that Kama is probably way more popular than she is. And if you have somebody like, say, the new Dante's that also released, you really have no reason to go for Bisquion outside of maybe her design if you like her a bit more. And Kurohime, the more that I use her, I do really like her in multi-core setups. Again, the thing that I mentioned in the video about her is that she's going to be really good with, say, somebody like Summer Ibuki. They pair very nicely together. And if we ever get another, I don't know, Lamia Serpent or Dragon type, good AoE or single target character, because we know there's just an absolute shortage of dragon characters in Myth, right? There's only like 2 of them. Surely they can't make any more servants that are dragons. I think she'll age really well. But it's not like both of the characters are really picking up on the hype that Richard dropped. Moving into New Year's, we got Richard, finally getting, I think the first OVA for Fate Strange Fake, and then we get him in the game. That's pretty gas, but then we kind of get 2 characters that aren't really known very well. I mean, I was seeing a lot of discourse in my own Discord, a couple of other FGO Discords, and especially on Twitter, where people were just like, who are these people? Like, who the heck are these random ass women that are in our FGO game? Which for me, I absolutely love, because I get to go out and research, find out what mythologies or histories they're from. It's the whole reason it's my favorite franchise. I mean, I've said this a million times on stream. I had no idea who Karna was until I watched Apocrypha, went and researched him, and thought that dude was an absolute chat. He's one of my favorite characters now. But then to shadow drop this NPC servant in the middle of an event that kind of gets everybody hyped. I mean, if you've been on any FGO Discord or really any anime Discord, you've probably seen some fan art drop of this character, or especially if you're around Twitter, she is all over the place with the FGO fan artists, so she's clearly quite popular, but that hasn't stopped them in the past from not releasing these characters from NPC prison. I mean, sure, there are some examples like Takasugi, where the last Guda Guda event we got, I believe he featured in that one, and then he comes out like the next year or so after that, and that's pretty cool. But then you do have some characters like Kamatsa's, who is wildly popular, and I'm sure a lot of people that are playing through Lost Belt 7 right now are saying that, dang, this guy is an absolute Giga Chad. Like, no wonder people wanted this guy for the last 2 years. Again, not gonna spoil too much of the story, but guy's kind of a big deal, and we still don't have him in the game. I mean, people were coping so hard that last White Day, or the White Day before last, where Takasugi actually released, they were like, dude, we're definitely gonna get Kamatsa's, and, I was in denial of that one, just saying, dude, we're not gonna get Kamatsa's for a goofy, Guda Guda event. hopefully now people playing through Lost Belt 7 realize why that just really wouldn't work. If we're ever going to get him, it's going to be in like some kind of serious collaboration event, maybe for an anniversary, but if you have any respect for the character at all, or you think he's cool, you don't want him to drop in some goofy summer event, or for Christmas, although that would actually be really funny, or for, you know, again, like White Day. It's probably not something you're going to get for him. And then especially considering how important the character is or what role he fulfills, one of the main writers, Nasu, probably doesn't just want to drop him randomly, or maybe just doesn't even want to put him in the game. In fact, at one point even referencing saying that he's probably off doing his own thing after Lost Belt 7. That's basically to the effect of what he was saying afterwards. And in recent interviews, we actually found out from Nasu why we don't have people like Draco in our Lucky Bag campaigns. That's what the GSSRs are referred to. And that is because getting a beast in your summon is not something he would consider lucky. So as much as I love to do Nasu and he can put together some really good stories, I don't really think he understands that he's running a gacha game, and I just think it's a really goofy and dumb reason to be like, oh, you actually can't get this character in any of the GSSRs. And it's not a cope or mault on my end. I have Draco over on JP. I just think it's a really dumb reasoning overall. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was something along in the writer's room while we don't get characters like Kamatsu's in the summoning pool initially. I mean, imagine if you were playing a game like Arknights or Genshin or Honkai Star Rail. If they drop one of these insanely popular characters, think someone like Arlecchino in Genshin Impact, who is wildly popular. If they just said, nah, you actually just can't obtain this character, it's almost kind of criminal, because the whole point of running a gacha game that people sometimes do forget is to make a boatload of money. I mean, it's effectively gambling with anime waifu PNGs. And so to not release wildly popular characters is almost counterintuitive to what the game is supposed to be doing. Now, obviously, Nasu and a lot of the other writers are using FGO as kind of their main flagship to tell the FGO story, but at the end of the day, you gotta make money to keep the thing afloat. But at the same hand, FGO is one of the most profitable gacha games on the planet. I mean, I still remember during year 3 when it was the most best-selling thing just on the planet. Like when I saw that it was outselling Fortnite during year 3, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I was like, dude, this game was big, but I didn't know it was this large. I didn't know it was this absolutely massive. And that was just from the JP side of things. To tie that all back into Omi-san over here, you know, how does this apply to them? I just don't want people to get their hopes up, because again, we've had some really nice turnarounds with people like, say, Takasugi, who do come out of NPC jail rather quickly. Or look at somebody like Zhu Fu, you know, she features in Trom, she features in, what was it, Summer 6 or 5? I think it was 5, actually. And then they come out like 1 or 2 years afterwards, you know, not a too bad of a turnaround, especially since they're kind of in a goofy event, then they're in a serious event, and then they actually get a proper rate-up on a very hype anniversary banner. But then we've also got characters like, say, everybody from the Lost Belt stories that I did actually make a video on last year when I was doing my big read of all of the FGO Lost Belts that I hadn't read at that point, and it was just like, why do we not have some of these characters? I mean, you can easily make excuses for characters that are not heroic spirits to be summonable in Chaldea. I mean, they bend the rules all the time. They've been bending the rules since day 1 when we finally got Artemis as one of our first 5 stars in the game, where they just said, well, you're not allowed to summon divine spirits, but technically, what if she just hijacked Orion Saintgraph and bada boom, bada bing, you can go ahead and summon Artemis. And then we have people like Quetzalcoatl running around where it's like, well, technically, if the character is cute enough, we can just throw them in the gacha and make up a lore reason, right? Like, you shouldn't be able to summon beast characters. Most of the extra classes, just outside of beast, even shouldn't exist, right? Like, these should not be summonable things. And in fact, that's kind of a main plot point that they've spun for Ordeal Call 2. That's pretty much the whole thing that's based around. Not, again, to get into too much, but it's based around us kind of messing up and summoning all these servants that we really shouldn't have. But again, we have like the Bloodborne NPC from one of the past Guda Guda events who is nowhere to be seen. We have no idea where that guy is at. Or again, pretty much all of the NPCs from the Lost Belts that I'm assuming from a business perspective would make absolute bank. I mean, which one of those NPCs, I'm sure even if you don't like any of them, there's one that you would absolutely love to have. And technically, I guess you could say that while it's not actually Kazura drop in Lost Belt 6, they did have the model made, and then they made her a summonable servant last year. You could say that they maybe are starting to chip away at that a little bit, but this could be one of those situations where we don't see this character release for years, or Or they drop this really cute wifey servant and Valentine's is, oh, look at that, about a month away. Would this not make a really good Valentine's Day servant? They get everybody hyped for this, let all the fan art start to kind of circulate around the internet, and then boom, drop them for Valentine's. I think that kind of makes sense. I mean, this lady is literally going around saying that she's like wifey material. Gouda is agreeing with them. I'm sure you've seen that post go around on Twitter or various Discords. So all in all, I'm just saying they got like cute mommy servant over here who's saying that she's wifey material. We got the lover's holiday coming up in about a month. I think that would probably be more accurate than saying, oh, we're probably going to get like a second banner or something. It is just really hard to gauge at times though, because sometimes we have NPCs that are absolute bangers and they just never see the light of day. Like I'm pretty sure there are ones that I'm forgetting right now that people are going to rattle off in the comment section down below, but I just don't want to see anybody getting disappointed that we don't end up getting this servant in like a couple of days. If we do end up getting them in a couple of days, that would be baller. I mean, I would love that. Probably going to get shafted on the banner, but hey, still nice that they're in the game. I can kind of cope by using friends, I suppose, over on JP. But personally, I'm settling in on like maybe a Valentine's Day, if not this year, maybe next year. That could probably work out for her if they wanted to actually drop her into the game. But I would also like to get some feedback from the community on this one, because I think just talking about NPC servants, or whenever they do drop an NPC character into the game and then we just have no idea if we're going to end up getting them, it just kind of stirs stuff up in the community, right? Like again, Kamatsa's was one about like 2 years ago when we first got Lost Spells. Everyone's like, all right, this guy's really dope, can't wait to be able to summon this guy. And then we're just sitting around like twiddling our thumbs wondering, so when are we going to end up getting them? Like, when is that going to be a thing? Also, to just kind of add something here at the very end of the video, just talking about, again, other servants that have kind of been slowed down on their release because of, say, like Nasu writing reasons. We have CL, who he always mentioned how he didn't want her to be in the game, which is really weird because he really likes CL a lot. And clearly the CEOs and whatnot are going to want that character to be in the game because she's going to be a moneymaker, and they were proven right. So what he did to kind of justify a lore way to put her in the game was to say, well, it's not CL. Her name is Mysterious Executioner CL. You know, who knows if that's really CL? Maybe it's just CL from the Servant universe. So if anybody in the comments is going to go off being like, well, I don't know, like it wouldn't really fit with the lore, just know they have broken their lore things, or not to say broken, but justified weird quote unquote lore breaks all of the time. And just so you guys know, I'm always here for that. I love just seeing little justifications for lore things when you have these long ongoing series with this heavy lore and just pages upon pages for what these random little magical spells do. And then you're like, I want to put this character in this thing, but that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. It would kind of break pre-existing rules. Well, what if I just went ahead and just wrote in a little justification down here? So just know we got justifications for them. It's just a matter of whether or not they're actually going to drop her in the game. And again, I do think whenever they put these NPC characters in the game, they have to in some way have some progress on sprites or something. Because we do know, at least from an interview way back, that it takes them about like, what, 6 months to kind of get all the stuff done for the character, from writing the lore for them, you know, modeling their sprites, making the different ascensions, all that good stuff. It takes them about 6 months. Post-COVID, that might take a little bit longer. Then again, they might have rebuilt their staff, so maybe it's a little bit quicker. Maybe they've gotten better at it. Who really knows? As far as I'm aware, they haven't updated us on the time frame to making servants or just summonable characters. But if you've got like the expression sheets and everything done, I got to imagine you're working on a little bit. And when you design a character looking this good, come on, you got to know that this is going to be a money maker servant, right? This is going to be one of those banger characters. So a little bit of cope on my part is just saying, well, maybe they've already got some progress done and plan on dropping them for Valentine's. But again, would love to get some thoughts in the comment section down below. As per usual, if you enjoyed the video and like this little discussion, a like on the video and a subscribe to the channel would be much greatly appreciated. And if you have any other topics that you'd like me to just kind of dive into, whenever we have these little periods where we're in between, you know, hype events, you know, NA is in between the Tez banner and nuclear fusion dropping over here, and then we're kind of just waiting for another update over here on the JP side of things. I think the next thing we're going to get is what, the Archer weekly rate up thing. I have no problem doing discussion videos like this in the interim between those, so if you have any ideas, go ahead and drop those in the comment section down below, and I'll probably get around to a lot of them, because like I've always said, I love this game. This is my favorite franchise, so if I have an opportunity to yap about it and people will listen, then I'm going to take you up on that offer. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice rest of your day, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace, late guys.